Welcome to Madison City Channel's Know Your Candidates interviews, co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I'm your interviewer, Louise Robbins, and I would like to introduce Dave Ahrens, running for County Board from District 17. As we begin, please tell our viewers a bit about how your educational, vocational, and civic experience has prepared you for the position and why you decided to run for supervisor.
My most recent, relevant experience is my 6 years as an alder on the Madison City Council, representing much of the same district that I'm running in now is for the county district. So I know the district very well. And I know a lot of the issues that pertain to local government, whether that's city government or county government. My vocational background before I joined the council 6 years ago, I was a research program manager at the UW Medical School for about a decade. I have graduate degrees and all that, which really doesn't particularly pertain to this position. The relevance to the county work, though, is that in my last years as a alder, I became involved with a number of issues that really intersect with the county, and I got to know and understand county government and have some questions and concerns about it. And that's what gave rise to my running for it. When I left the council, I had no intention of running for the county board, but a few months after I gave notice that I'm not going to run again, our county board member resigned, and that left this open seat.
Dane County has been grappling for some time with issues around incarceration of Dane County offenders, from improvements to the outdated and some say dangerous cells in the city-county building and consolidating jail facilities, to treatment or diversion of offenders with addiction or mental health problems. How would you prioritize these issues, and what actions would you recommend?
I think it is a priority. I think it is a priority above and beyond really any other kind of capital or operating expenditure that I could think of. And the priority is how do we put a stop to this really inhumane treatment of people who are chronically mentally ill or experiencing a very severe mental illness, that they should not be in solitary confinement. They should not be treated in this kind of inhumane fashion. They should be treated as we currently know it in this 21st century, that people with chronic mental illness deserve to be treated as an ill person. And to do that, the county needs to invest in a new facility, and that facility should include special sections both for people who are mentally ill as well as people who are addicted, coming through addiction, or ill. We really have no facility in the hospitals. Area hospitals generally do not want those people within their premises. So it's up to the county to do it, and to do it now. And I think waiting for another study is not the solution to it. I think there are proposals that are before us, and rather than wait another year or 2 years, and it'll be at least that before anything actually is built, we need to get started now.
Affordable housing is a big issue, not just in Madison, but in other Dane County communities as well. What approach or approaches would you recommend to solve the lack of affordable housing?
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that it's needed in other communities as well. Much of the affordable housing, and one project for people who are homeless was in my district, and another two are affordable housing projects. And while I'm happy to have the affordable housing projects in my area, I'm very aware that there's also an affordable housing need in Cambridge and Stoughton and all around the county. people who don't want to leave their communities and move to Madison in order to find an affordable home. I think the county needs to, like just as the city does, needs to increase its commitment to it, that its financial commitment to it, and to partner with other, both the city, WIDA, and hopefully private industry, private corporations as well, to build housing both where people live, and in some cases that may be Cottage Grove and Sun Prairie, so that they don't have to, so they can live there, and also to locate businesses there potentially.
Last year's flooding made Dane County residents keenly interested in lake levels and other issues that may affect future flooding. What would you recommend as a way to prepare for likely impacts of climate change and avoid damaging floods?
That's a big one. I mean, the Lakes Commission recently did a very extensive study of it, and I don't think it would do it justice to kind of abbreviate it, but I think, first off, I think the county has seized on that and has done great work on it, and particularly doing kind of common sense issues such as dredging the areas by dams and dredging the areas, river areas so that the water can outflow, removing a lot of vegetation which was encumbering outflow. But there are also longer term issues such as planting trees, controlling stormwater more efficiently, and of course lowering the lake level. I think people may have put too much weight in the lake level area, that was going to be a big solution to the problem, when I think that reducing the lake level, especially in high water times like this, basically floods areas that are downriver from us. So flooding Lake Wabisa is not necessarily a great answer for the problem that we may have here. But apparently it needs some reduction, but I'm not a hydrologist or ecosystems person to be able to answer that question authoritatively.
Along with flooding, what other water-related issues in Dane County are of concern to you?
Many. I was on the Water Utility Board for 3 years and took a leadership role in attempting to get information out to the community and for the water utility itself, to get information on a contaminant called PFAS. That's the initials for it, and the main concentration of it is by Truax Field, and it's believed that the source of it was firefighting exercises that the Air Guard conducted over a long period of time. That then got into the groundwater, and it's contaminated that well. I asked for a public hearing and a public meeting on this, and we've had a number of public meetings as a result, and I think the water utility did the right thing and finally decided to close down well 15 because we really don't know how dangerous it might be, and how it interacts with people of different ages and so on. So I think that is an issue. I also asked the water utility, and they agreed to do testing of all wells in the system. And they found traces of it in some, but this is just one test so far. And there may be seasonal variation and so on. So I think that is a major issue. PFAS really is sort of has become the canary in the coal mine, because there may be others as well. That just haven't come, profile hasn't increased. PFAS nationally has increased in profile because of Air Guards and Air Force all over the country, and 3M Corporation and many other businesses as well. So we remains to be seen, really, what else is coming up in our water supply.
As the city and county grow, transportation will continue to be an issue. How would you address bus rapid transit, or is some other solution needed?
Well, I also was on many transportation committees and watched the whole BRT proposal evolve over a period of the last 5 years. Unfortunately, the county has played very little role in mass transit. And I think that's a problem. The BRT is, in order for the BRT to take effect, I mean, we're going to need a substantial contribution from the federal government to do that project. But I think there are things to do immediately on transit that the county should take a leading role in. And my interest in that is if people who live in Sun Prairie and Cottage Grove and so on, we have 30,000 commuters coming to the city every day. And if we want to reduce that and reduce all of the problems related to that kind of level of a commuting public, one of the things to do is to establish an affordable system of intercity transportation. Sun Prairie will soon begin a project of, I think, doing one bus per day back and forth. But Sun Prairie can't afford it, just like Madison can't afford to run buses. The city now invests, I think, this year about $6 million of general public revenue into the buses. Fare payers pay about the same amount, but we need to have other governmental support to do that. And Dane County should be playing a role in that. Dane County instituted a wheel tax last year, which grossed $9 million this year, but they haven't put that money into transportation. They haven't put it in public roads, and they haven't put it in mass transit. And I think both of those areas are areas that need improvement and where Dane County should play a bigger role.
What is the major human services problem you see the county tackling, and what additional steps can the county take to address needs?
Well, it's hard to begin on that. I think one of the things that the county is doing well, and because it's doing well doesn't mean it should stop or be cut back or whatever. But if you're doing something well and it's a great need, then sometimes we need to just deepen that activity and broaden it. And those things are to really focus on particular neighborhoods and K-5 schools. And to start looking at issues and giving kids support early on. For a number of years, I was a tutor not recently, in the last few years, at Alice School in my neighborhood. And it's the second poorest school in terms of the kids there in the district. And it was just the needs of the kids go way beyond anything that the school could potentially deal with their staff on hand. Unfortunately, that's not one of the schools that have been part of this Dane County intervention project. But, I mean, they're working at other schools, they need it, but as you go around to other schools and other neighborhoods, it's pretty clear that those needs are there, and to try to support and help kids through just their difficult period in life is something that better now when they're 6 and 7 years old than when they're 16, 17 years old.
What issue have you identified as being of primary concern to the residents of your district, and how would you approach tackling it?
The people have a hard time identifying what the county does. And that's one issue that when I ask people, do you have any issues pertaining to the county that are of interest, and they kind of draw a blank because they don't know. Unlike the city, which is police and fire and garbage, they don't know what the county does. So I think that's one thing, is how to engage the community with the county and the county with communities about what it is that they do. But beyond that sort of information gap, one of the major problems that I think are county issues, city issues, and school district for sure, is property taxes. And much of my district is very lower middle class, and a lot of elderly people on fixed incomes, and fixed incomes that have been frozen for a decade or more, so they are poor. And we need some property tax relief for those people, and I think it's something that the city and the county should get their heads together and think of ways of doing, especially trying to get relief for these elderly folks there. I mean, that's when we think about affordable housing, that's really not a population that most people think of, which is basically, you know, elderly widows on low Social Security or retirement benefits, and cannot afford property taxes anymore. They can, and they may have difficulty just physically staying in their homes, but the main burden they have is the property taxes, and it just, you know, is ruining their standard of living. So I think we need to, you know, sort of set certain thresholds on that and begin to address it. Because every year when people get their bills, at the end of the year, I would get phone calls from people, and I sometimes wish I could just record them and play them for other alders in case, if they're not getting them, they should listen to this, because it's really a serious human survival issue for many folks.
What would you like to say to the viewing audience as we complete this interview?
Vote for me. No, I think people don't look at county as being important, but for many of the issues that you raise, transportation and housing and human needs, the jail, all those things that's the county's portfolio. And for many people, they don't fit neatly directly into one of those things at this time, but they're all things that are important. I think that I have the experience, know-how, the knowledge base, and I think that for people who are aware of my work, know that I'm very hardworking when it comes to this. This is something that I do full-time, and I give it my all.
I want to thank David Ahrens for speaking with us and the viewing audience for taking the time to know your candidates. As with every election, please vote. On behalf of Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters of Dane County, I thank you for joining us.